And so economists have not dealt very seriously with the issue, but in the Stern Review they did. And yet when you look at it, and it's pretty much an establishment view, it's sort of the progressive side of the establishment in terms of dealing with global warming. But the Stern Review, if you look at the fine print, it says that the goal is to make it so that emissions peak in 2015. So we reach our highest level of carbon emissions in 2015, and that we cut the emissions by 30% by 2050. And then that's supposed to put us on track to reducing them by 70 or 80% by the end of the century. And the whole plan that they have is predicated on the notion that we would aim at 550 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, and that our target now would be a 3 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature. No longer, remember, when they were developing the Kyoto Protocol, and all this time they've been saying 2 degrees Celsius increase is what we were aiming for, that anything beyond that was going to be disaster. Now they basically are raising it to, the goal is to prevent a 3 degrees Celsius increase. Now, one reason, of course, is that the way things are going, it's very difficult for us to reach the 2 degrees Celsius target. A lot of this is already built in by emissions that we've done in the past. We probably could, but it would require drastic cuts in emissions. In fact, I think the Stern report said it would require the emissions go down by 7% a year, and peaking in 2015. The Stern Review says what we want is to have a decrease in emissions by 1% a year after they peak in 2015. Then a decrease by 1% a year up to 2050, which will result in a 30% cut, and then that will put us on track. That will only put us on track to maybe reducing it by 70 to 80% by the end of the century. And of course, we know that even the IPCC and the various scientists, they say, if we get to a 3% level, there's a 50% chance we won't even be able to contain things at that point. The feedbacks will be so great that it will leap up to, if we get to 3 degrees Celsius. It will leap up to 6 degrees Celsius fairly quickly, because it will be out of control. They say there's a very high chance that we'd be in a terrible situation there, and it would be all over. So why do they say that we should target a 3 degrees Celsius increase from the 2000 level? Why do they say that we should aim at the emissions peaking in 2015? That's 7 years from now, and then going down by 1% a year after that. Well, it's because they say that paths, this is a quote from the Stern Review, paths requiring very rapid emissions cuts are unlikely to be economically viable. So we can't cut emissions by more than 1% a year because it would not be economically viable. It might save the planet, but it would not be economically viable to do it. And then they point to examples. They say there are, they say, what are the examples of success stories in terms of reducing emissions by as much as 1% or close to 1% a year for an extended period of time. And the Stern Review provides 3 success stories. One is that France, from 1970, when France did a massive building of nuclear power plants. And so from 1977 to 2003, they managed to cut their carbon emissions by, not by 1%, but by 0.6% as a result of building all these nuclear power plants. And so that's one success story. Another success story is that they point to is what they call the UK dash for gas. Of course, that's a euphemism. Some of you may remember the coal miners' strike, the whole struggle in the Thatcher administration over coal. They destroyed the workers in the coal industry. I have 15 minutes.